Equity for all. The Biden administration's push to advance neo-Marxism in America is clearly on full display. After signing an executive order designed to implement equity agencies within the federal government, the government order inherently is clearly racist there, to the core, all wrapped up in an equity camouflage. But does this really surprise anyone with the Biden administration? It's clearly obsessed with equity. Take a listen.
President Biden and Vice President Harris are deeply committed to advancing equity.
The priorities of this administration: economic strength, safety, climate, equity, preparing for the future.
Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place.
Advancing equity has to be everyone's job.
But equitable to whom? Joining me now is award-winning publicist and member of the Black Leadership Network, Project 21, Whitley Yates. Welcome to The Count, Whitley.
It's so good to be here.
So break down for me this executive order.
Yeah, so it's really hard to really grasp what President Biden is attempting to do. In January of 2021, he signed his first executive order focused on equity, and there has been absolutely no movement from any of this, and he regurgitates a lot of the bureaucracies that already exist. And so he has now doubled down on this, and he has decided that every single federal agency should have some type of equity czar working in the agency, another level of bureaucracy, that Susan Rice should be the top equity czar over all of them, and that we should have race-based algorithms and artificial intelligence infused into our federal government. I think the entire thing is terrible, and we don't need any separate but equal policies from this administration at all. Americans just want the opportunities to be able to reach them and utilize them equally. That's it. There's already acts and protections against discrimination. This is wholly performative, and it is literally a dog whistle for the left.
I couldn't agree more. The same day that Biden signed that executive order, as you mentioned, Susan Rice led a White House virtual national briefing on equity. Check it out.
It's my pleasure to kick off today's national briefing on equity. As I hope you've seen earlier this morning, President Biden signed a new executive order to further advance racial equity. This work gets to the heart of our success as a nation. Despite what some politicians may say about equity efforts, the truth is, when we lift each other up, we all benefit.
It's pretty alarming that we have Susan Rice leading this charge, this equity charge. What do you think?
I do think that it's really interesting that he chose Susan of all people to be like the head and the lead. And one of the things that we haven't heard from him is their actual definition of what racial equity or equity in and of itself means. They say we want to lift each other up and we're all better together. That's tableau. What does that actually mean for an administration? And when you look on the website, when you look on the White House documents and their equity plans, specifically like HUD's, it is to address discrimination within the housing industry. Well, they're already supposed to be doing that through the Fair Housing Act. Why are we creating different levels of bureaucracy under the guise of equity, or that it's something new, or saying that we need to increase or create more? I think the entire thing is a dog whistle, and I think that they're going to lead into 2024 on this equity train that they don't need to be on, and more importantly, get back to basics. Why is gas so high? Why is inflation high? Why is the cost of eggs exponentially increased? That's what Americans are honestly worried about. But instead, they're on this woke agenda that I think is going to lead them down a very slippery slope and hopefully losing in 2024.
Whitley, what's interesting to me that every time we hear the woke left talking about these equity plans and the lifting up of the minority communities, it does the exact opposite. Why is that?
Every single time. And I really find it interesting that when we look at Democratic presidential leadership over the years, we can thank Democratic presidents like FDR for inequitable housing policies. We can thank presidents like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama for inequitable policies that they put in during their administration. And so I don't know if Biden is attempting to right the wrong, but he also participated when he was in Congress to further propel such policies. I don't even understand why the left are consistently pretending that these policies are going to help communities of color when we see in the cities that they lead that the communities of color that they say that they want to help are actually hindered. by the policies and the leadership.
Well, President Biden was raised in a black church. Then he said he was Puerto Rican. I mean, what's his point with all of this? Is this just his way of trying to score cheap political points? Is he pandering to that hardcore left base?
It is political pandering at its finest and performative politics at best. He wants people to feel as though he has a connection with these different communities so that they will consistently vote for him, knowing that the policies that he has produced have harmed not only communities of color, but all Americans equally.
Well, thank you so much, Whitley Yates.